From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spar on the radio.
Hello to Marsha Swanson. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for letting me interview you today. So, can you tell me how long have you been a singer-songwriter for?
Oh, wow. Years and years and years and years. So I think I must have been 8 years old when I wrote my first song, which I can still remember the lyrics of. It was, don't be a penguin that can't walk, just talk, and all your friends are listening to you. So I was problem solving even then as a child through song.
So, can you tell me more about what was it like going into the recording studio for the first time?
I loved it, absolutely loved it. I was just before university age, I think, probably late teens. And it was the first time where I could focus way into the hours working and it did not matter. Up until that point, it was always tiring working. And this was the one thing I could have kept on going and going and going and never would have tired of it. Just the to be able to completely perfect and get your sound how you wanted it, your voice how you wanted it, the instruments how you wanted it. I loved it.
So, has it changed since you've gone back into the studio?
Well, one of the people that I first worked with, one of the producers, has still had a role on this album. So there's some things that have stayed all the way through. And then there's a new team of people that I work with as well now. So a real mix.
So, can you tell me more about your first album that you released called Watershed?
Oh, wow. Yeah, Watershed was a bit of a watershed moment for me, which was partly why I chose that title. And it came about, had a development deal with Universal Publishing, and we'd been recording some of the songs there. And it got to the point they were preparing to sort of do a showcase to ideally sign my publishing and get a record company involved. But they had a merger at that point and they weren't able to take on artists like in my category at that point. But I still had the recordings and I was allowed to go away with those recordings. And I was encouraged to finish the album myself and release it, which was what I did. So that was my first album. And at that point, it only appeared in, I think it was Borders bookshop. It was before I had any distribution deal. But I toured on the basis of it, an acoustic tour, just me and a guitarist, went around the country and playing in all around England, and basically sold enough copies of that album to record the second one.
So, can you tell me more about your second album that you released?
So my second album's Sentient Stardust. I was able to get a distribution deal for that one with Proper Music Distribution, and I also had the opportunity to I won some awards for it. It was Best Folk Artist and Best Album, which was a lovely thing for an independent artist at the time. It was the first sort of awards that happened for independent albums. I don't think something existed before that. And again, I toured off the back of that. And I also had the artwork for this album done by the living legend Storm Thorgerson, which was an incredible development for that album. So I think whenever I think about Sentient Stardust, I'm immediately thinking to that album cover, which was rather spectacular.
So, can you tell me more about your music label that you got called Mostly Music?
So Mostly Music was the title I gave because it is mostly about music, but it's also about a lot of other things. It's about life and it's about relationships. And it's also it was funny actually, the title of Mostly Music came about as a result of a dream where the M and the M formed the shape of a cloud. So I often use my dreams for inspiration. They're often there in songs as well. My dreams are very useful. I work hard in my sleep, you see.
So, can you tell me more about your debut single that you released called "You Think I'm So Great I'm Not"?
Ah, well, that was an unusual diversion. So that single came about. That was a very unique project. Actually, it was after I'd read a book by the author Lionel Shriver. It was one of her best-selling novels called "We Need to Talk About Kevin," and it was made into a feature film. And this novel of hers was called Checker and the Derailers, and it was a story about a fictional band. And she actually wrote lyrics in the novel for this fictional band. And at the end of the novel, there was an afterword from her that said she was quite attached to these songs. She said, if anyone feels like setting them to music, be my guest. And I thought, well, that's a fascinating opportunity. And I will do that. Thank you very much. So I recorded some music, me and a guitarist that I was working with at the time, Seb Cooper. We recorded the music to one of the lyrics in this book. And we gave it to her at a literary event that she was talking at. And delighted to say she said it was exactly as she heard it in her head, which is a very interesting concept in itself. How does one hear a track just from the words? But she did say that, and we ended up recording a whole lot more songs from that. And she included it as one of her Desert Island discs in her BBC Radio 6 interview. I'm not sure if that's still available out there, but yeah, so that was a diversion. It wasn't my normal material, but that was a unique bit of inspiration after a book that I'd read. Not in my normal style of writing for me.
So, have you written a children's album?
Yes, so I do have a lot of, I've written a couple of children's albums actually. I wrote one for a children's entertainer called Amanda's Action Club. And she's a kind of celebrity, A-list celebrity children's parties. And she's an incredible entertainer. That's why they all have her at their kids' parties, because she's best entertainer. And my daughter went to her classes and I met her when she was looking for new material. And so I wrote some music for her. But then I've also in the middle of writing a children's resource for schools called Troubleshoots. And that's going to be published next year. That's in development at the moment. And it's with a publisher called Karnak. And it's a psychological resource for schools. And it's aimed at developing emotional literacy for children.
So, can you tell me more about the first single that released this year called In Parallel?
Well, In Parallel is the first of my singles for this album, Near Life Experience. And In Parallel was a song about relationships and how do we last the distance in long-term relationships. I was inspired by the the imagery of swans who are loyal swans who mate for life and who traverse long distances in parallel together, swimming in parallel. And I was also quite moved to find out that swans sing just before they die. Now, obviously, I had no intention of this being my swan song, but I think the fact that there does have to be deaths in order to have room for births means that that's inherently part of any creation. So I found that quite fitting as well.
So, can you tell me more about Not You?
Not You was the third single on this album, current album. From there's a video out there. There's a video for In Parallel as well. In fact, all 4 of my current singles have videos. Not You was about the process of thawing a frozen inner child. So it was a song about, I don't know, sometimes you find yourself as an adult, you catch yourself behaving in ways which might not be representative of now, might be an earlier part of yourself, that maybe something that hadn't got processed enough when you were younger. And so for me, it was a sort of a gentle song, being kind to that inner self when you've discovered it and letting it go so that you can react from your adult position, like a gentle reminder. That's why it sounds a bit like a lullaby.
So, can you tell me more about your current single is called Happy Ever After?
Happy Ever After was a song about how we deal with changes to our expectations in life. So every time there's an unexpected life event, something that causes us to reevaluate in any major way, that can confront us with our mortality. And it can also mean we mourn, or we need to mourn, the loss of our previous expectations or our previous sort of happy ever after moments. Anything we expected to happen in our life that maybe didn't turn out that way. And I think once you've mourned those happy ever afters, then you can readjust to the new norm or the new situation. And that's what that song is about.
So, can you tell me more about the forthcoming album released on the 19th of January called Near Life Experience?
So Near Life Experience is a bit of a journey, I would say. It's not strictly a concept album, but it is best experienced listening all the way through from beginning to end. It has 2 instrumental bookends. It begins with the Waltz for Life, which is a sort of very life-affirming joy. And it ends with an instrumental called In Touch, which is a sort of representative of all goodbyes and all endings. And I would say in the middle, all the songs are the content. They're all the songs sandwiched in the middle. And when I talk about a near life experience, I think I was interested in flipping over the well-known concept of a near-death experience, which we all know about. Nobody sort of really talks about, well, what does it mean to nearly live, to strive for to have nearly reached our potential or our goals or a full life experience. And I think to consider that question, you have to be aware of not running from the shadow of death, but from letting that inform us to make great life choices. So I'd say, to sum up the album of near life experience, I would say that the roots that we come from and return to are in death, but we continue to reach for the light. And so I am that plant reaching for the light. And it's I would say it's an album of existential themes, but hopefully one that we can all relate to. It's pretty universal.
So can you tell me more about your album launch that you got coming up on the 19th of January at Bush Hall in London?
Yes, well, I'm very delighted that on the actual day of release of the album will also be my live launch at a beautiful venue in London, Bush Hall. It's in Shepherd's Bush near Westfield Shopping Centre, if you probably know that one. And it's a venue that's quite dear to me because it was the venue I did my first ever showcase to record companies 20, I think it must be 20 years ago now. And so to return there now 20 years later with this new album, something I never thought would happen, is quite special for me. And I'm really looking forward to meeting new people there, new listeners, and I will be there to chat to people and to hopefully sign lots of copies of the album.
So have you got some support acts lined up that's going to support you on the evening?
I do indeed. I have a wonderful singer-songwriter called Sebastian Cooper, and he goes under another name as well. It's because due to his left-handed guitar playing, southpaw. And I also have co-written with him in the past. He actually co-wrote the track we discussed earlier, the You Think I'm So Great I'm Not track for Lionel Shriver. And he's going to be doing my support act. So looking forward to that as well.
So are your plans to just do the album launch in London, or any more gigs lined up for next year?
Well, I'm starting off with this because this is a full this launch is a bit special because it's also going to be part of the next video, which means that anybody who attends this gig also has the opportunity to be in the video. It's part of the audience will also be part of this unique video experience. So it's going to be a bit of an extravaganza, and we're also having a string section as well as the band. So really looking forward to that. And then, yes, we'll see what happens following that. I'm sure there will be more.
So have you, I know you're just going to release this album in January, but is there any plans to write more music later in the year, or?
There will always be plans to write new music, and well, in fact, I would say it's not really plans because it will hit when it hits, and I can just trust and rely that it will hit, because as long as I'm alive, there will be inspiration. That sounds like a quote, doesn't it? So as long as I'm alive, there will be inspiration.
So can you tell me, how's being an independent artist for you?
Well, there's a lot of hurdles. It's a lot of hard work, but also a lot of freedom. I think there was a lot of hurdles anyway for independent artists. Then the pandemic created more hurdles. But it does also provide an opportunity to do things to your own time scale, and do things to your own liking, and allows you to select what you want to select. So it has a lot of advantages as well. I think for me as a mother, at this stage in my life, where I'm not touring as much as perhaps I would have done previously, hence you asking about how many gigs that I'm doing, I prefer to do fewer but more quality gigs than sort of than the way I used to do it, which was more traveling around, which suited me then, but what I'm doing now is better for me now. So,
And finally, where can listeners find you on social media?
so first of all, I guess my tagline is Marsha Swanson Music. Not my tagline, my handle is Marsha Swanson Music. So for YouTube, it would be youtube.com and then / at Marsha Swanson Music. Same for Instagram, would be at Marsha Swanson Music. But then my website is marshaswanson.co.uk or marshaswanson.com if you're not from this country.
Thank you for letting me chat to you today.
Pardon?
I said, thank you for letting me chat to you today.
Oh, thank you very much, Ruben. It's been lovely. Thank you for having me.
And I wish you all the success.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Will do.
Goodbye.
Bye. See
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.